when it comes to immigration, every single Jewish person in the Middle East who wanted to take out a visa to go to the United Kingdom at the end of World War II, every single one was scrutinized by MI5 and the security services. Every single one. That is how I'm trying to illustrate to you how serious this threat of Zionist terrorism was to the United Kingdom, which helped create Israel, right? Remember Balfour Declaration, 1917, and then this becomes such a headache, all of this, that the UK just dumps it onto the UN. And of course, the Americans are not helping the UK because, you know, there's the Israeli lobby is much, much stronger and receives a lot more funding and support in the United States versus the UK. And so, you know, the US becoming the new superpower and overshadowing France and the UK. What can you do, right? I mean, it doesn't make it any better, but I'm just trying to explain to you that there was the UK at this point, even if it had wanted to put a stop to, you know, the creation of Israel, which I doubt it did, it couldn't have anyway because the United States was funding and supporting Zionism so much that the UK had no say in this, right? Remember, the final nail in the coffin is the Suez Canal crisis, but that's later. That's a decade later. So just going back to the British approach, you know, in 1939, there was something called the White Paper, which is basically a decree limiting the number of Jewish migrants to Palestine to around 75,000 per year. Okay, so this was a cap. And once again, at the end of World War II, just to illustrate how serious this was taken, the threat of Israeli terrorism, this cap was not lifted. Okay, so it was kept in place. Now, the Israelis, as I said, they were sending, you know, putting bombs all over London. They were also sending bombs from throughout Europe in letter bombs, and even in books, right? So they pride themselves in being the inventors of the book bomb. Okay. Then we come to the USS Liberty. Then we come to another Israeli attack on a so-called ally. Okay, so this is the 8th of June, 1967. The Israelis kill 34 U.S. service members. Among them is an NSA civilian employee and I think 2 United States Marine Corps service members. And all in all, you have 171 people who are wounded. You know, this is basically like 2/3 of the crew. Now, this was a spy ship. Okay, the USS Liberty was a spy ship. So the way that they refer to these ships was AGTR, right? So it's an auxiliary technical research ship. Whenever you hear a bunch of words mashed up together under a US title, I can guarantee you 99.9% it's something to do with the NSA or the CIA. Lo and behold, it's an NSA ship. Confirmed. This is a spy ship. Okay? Now, granted, the ship wasn't doing anything wrong. It's a clearly marked United States vessel, and it's in international waters. Now here, once again, what do we have? We have the Israelis trying to justify their acts of terrorism. They claimed that they didn't know this was an American ship, right? They thought it was an Egyptian ship pretending to be an American one. I mean, if you buy that, you are the most supreme of all suckers to have ever sucked. Truly. If you think the Israelis thought this was an Egyptian ship, to reiterate, the USS Liberty was a clearly marked United States vessel. It was in international waters. And the Israelis pretend and claim that they had submitted a request to the Americans asking about the locations of U.S. ships in the Mediterranean Sea in advance, and this was a complete lie. They only submitted this request after they had already attacked the USS Liberty. What makes this all the more disturbing and disgusting is that to this day, the United States provides Israel with not only political cover, but billions of dollars every single year in weapons, in military aid, $3.8 billion a year. Even after the Israelis openly killed 34 United States sailors wounded hundreds of American service members and then pretended that it didn't know that this was an American ship. That is completely disgusting. Let me read to you just a short excerpt here. This is from the History Channel. So, the USS Liberty was suddenly attacked by Israeli torpedo boats who launched torpedoes and fired artillery at the ship. Under the command of its wounded captain, William McGonigal, the Liberty managed to avert 4 torpedoes, but one struck the ship at the waterline. Heavily damaged, the ship launched 3 lifeboats, but these were also attacked, which is a violation of international law. Even if it's a military submarine or a vessel, if you see people bailing out, and getting into lifeboats, you can't shoot them. You have to help them, even if they're your enemy. They become your prisoners of war, and you must take care of them, right? So the Israelis not only attacked the U.S. ship, they even attacked the lifeboats. What did they think? These were Egyptian soldiers dressed as Americans climbing into lifeboat. Even if they were Egyptians, how can you attack a lifeboat? They did. So, heavily damaged, the ship launched 3 lifeboats. They were attacked, and failing to sink the Liberty, which displaced 10,000 tons, the Israelis finally desisted. Israel later apologized for the attack and offered $6.9 million in compensation, claiming it had mistaken the Liberty for an Egyptian ship. However, Liberty survivors and some former U.S. officials believe that the attack was deliberate, staged to conceal Israel's pending seizure of Syria's Golan Heights, which occurred the next day. Lo and behold, the 6-day war, the period during which this took place, is exactly when Israel took East Jerusalem, right? And took the Golan Heights and then the Sinai Peninsula, but then, of course, it made peace with Egypt, or rather was forced to make peace with Egypt. Excuse me, the Egyptians were forced to make peace with Israel. In any case, the Syrian Golan Heights are occupied to this day. Right now, as I'm speaking to you in 2023, nothing has changed. Those lines have not moved. So you do understand why they did this. This is a spy ship. These are American spies, okay? They are doing a signal intelligence, okay? Signals intelligence. So they're intercepting communications, meaning the radio traffic from the Israelis. They're cracking the codes. They're decrypting it and listening to what they're saying. And they understand, oh, that's what the Israelis intend to take the Golan Heights. That's why the Israelis sunk the ship. I wanted to mention one thing before. I had skipped a paragraph when I wanted to start reading, because when I mentioned the torpedoes, this is after they had already attacked the ship. So you understand there are multiple parts to this incident. Okay, so this begins with the Israelis bombing it with aircraft and firing napalm and rockets. If napalm gets on your skin, you're in trouble. Even if it gets on your clothes, you're in trouble. Everything will be gone, clean off. So they used napalm and rockets. The Liberty attempted to radio for assistance, but the Israeli aircraft blocked the transmissions. Just think of how cruel that is. So the Israelis know that the Americans are sending out a distress call, and they block it. They jam it. I guess they thought it was an Egyptian ship. Eventually, the ship was able to make contact with the U.S. carrier Saratoga, and 12 fighter jets and 4 tanker planes were dispatched to defend the Liberty. When word of their deployment reached Washington, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara ordered them recalled to the carrier, and they never reached the Liberty. The reason for their recall remains unclear. So Robert McNamara is another war criminal, and his history in Vietnam is rather extensive. Right? You tell me why he recalled 12 American planes from helping out a U.S. ship with 34 U.S. service members killed. I mean, look at the size of that thing. The fact Israel pays a few $100 million. What does that change? I'm telling you, the people on that ship, it's not my opinion. I'm telling you, the people on the ship are saying, we don't buy this story that Israel mistook us for an Egyptian ship. Israel knew this was an American vessel, that there were American soldiers on board, and Israel fired on purpose because they were American, because they knew what Israel was about to do in Syria. And, the Israelis claim that they had asked the Americans in advance, please tell us where your ships are in the Mediterranean Sea so we don't accidentally fire upon you. This is a lie, because the government in Washington quickly spoke to the U.S. ambassador in Israel to confirm this, and he said this is a lie. No one ever asked me to pass on this information, or rather to pass on this request, to give the Israelis the location of American ships. The Israelis only did this after they had blown up the USS Liberty, after the fact. Once again, so, the Israelis, they're ready to carry out terrorist attacks against their own people, or who they claim are their own people. They are ready to attack their own allies, the UK, the US. And what is our response? We applaud them and give them money. No, I don't think so. We are not going to applaud, Ashkenazi Zionist terrorism for killing our compatriots. And we are not going to applaud them for what they're doing in Palestine and what they're doing in Syria. Even if Israel had never killed a single American soldier or a British officer, they would still be terrorists and they would still be oppressors in Palestine. This is the quintessential issue and problem with the Israeli colony in Palestine, that it's a colony. Do you understand? It's not just apartheid, and it's not an apartheid state, it's a colony, it's a European colony, and it's never been anything but.